Hello, Dragonfly Swarm. I was saving all my wishes for C6 Kazuha, genuinely, but then this lady appeared and said, "F that, f you, pull for me," and so here we are. Yelan's kit has finally been revealed to us after lots of anticipation and waiting, and it is, to say the least, insane what it seems like she might be capable of. Also, she's very pretty, so I'm gonna assume a lot of people are gonna be pulling for her, myself included. And as such, I wanted to compile my initial thoughts on Yelan in regards to what artifacts might be best on her, what weapons in general could work on her, as well as whether she's worth pulling assuming you're not already sold on her. I do need to make a massive disclaimer though before we start. This video is in no way taking into account leaked information or anything of the sort. These are nothing more than my initial thoughts and plans regarding how I'll be preparing for my Yelan. And with that, the first thing we gotta do is break down the information we learned about her in the live stream in stupid people terms, because I need that. So, Yelan seems to be a Hydro DPS bow user, more specifically a sub DPS, who has a really cool active skill, a beefed up Synchro burst, and some really weird passives. Yelan has a special enhanced charge attack that forms whenever she briefly exits combat, this special charge attack apparently having a
decreased charge time.
It doesn't seem like this plays a huge role in her main damage output based on the way it was described in the live stream, mostly just because of how gimmicky it is in tandem with the rest of her kit, but I'll explain that as we go. Yelan's elemental skill, when tapped or held, sends her into a ghost-looking state, or like a water ghost, like a jellyfish, but not really. It sends her into a state in which she has a hugely increased movement speed, and she forms this little string thing. When she walks near enemies in this state, the enemy is marked and it will take a huge chunk of hydro damage when she exits the state. Additionally, every enemy marked gives Yelan a fixed chance to replenish her enhanced charge shot. I think this is a cool ability, and depending on how fast and easy it is to execute this on a bunch of enemies, it could work really well even for a sub DPS playstyle. It's just that this, on top of the enhanced charge shots, is kind of giving me mixed feelings as to whether she's a sub DPS or a main DPS. However, those feelings were entirely resolved when I found out what her burst does. It is the return of the ultimate sub DPS ability. Yelan's elemental burst casts out a huge AoE hydro explosion from her location, and then it summons a dice that will float and follow you. This dice will shoot out what seems to be just a rapid fire of hydro missiles in tandem with the active character's attacks. Sound familiar? In a good way? This burst, on paper at least, has all of the overpowered qualities of Xingqiu's burst, and he's regarded as one of the best characters in the game, so imagine a 5-star version of him. I guess comparing the two characters is a bit unfair because Yelan's burst definitely has some clear differences, the biggest of which being that with her Ascension passive, the active character's damage is increased the longer the dice is on the field, making it already amazing for characters like Hu Tao, who can now utilize the Vaporize from constant hydro application and the raw damage bonus. There's still a lot to be learned about this ability, but my first impression is basically that it will make Yelan a top pick in Vaporize teams at the least. Finally, they kind of threw in this weird tidbit that Yelan's second passive increases her max HP based on how many different elements are active in your party, which, to make that one of her Ascension passives, leads me to believe that she 99% most likely scales with HP somehow. How? I don't know, but I'm thinking. So let's talk about artifacts. Seeing as we're working with a primarily sub DPS Hydro bow user, our artifact options are a little limited, but in comparing Yelan with Xingqiu, albeit tentatively, I'm gonna put my resin into farming for the 4-piece Emblem of Severed Fate set first and foremost. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit biased with this set, as it's one of my favorite sets in the game just for how valuable it is and how pretty much any burst focused character can use this and not go wrong with it. On top of that, we don't actually know what Yelan's energy management capabilities are like, but I'm assuming that since her burst is an off-field DPS burst, it'll probably have at least a decently high energy cost. Hoyoverse usually does this with these types of bursts to make it more difficult to achieve 100% uptime on them, so with that possibility and my bias towards the emblem set, I'm gonna put most of my resin into dedicating a 4-piece to Yelan. But I also have some spare pieces from other sets that I've put together just in case Yelan actually does have HP scaling. As we know now, one of her Ascension passives increases her max HP based on how many different elements are in her party, and I don't think Hoyoverse would give a character such a random stat boost passive if said stat wasn't valuable to them in some way. So I've also scrounged up a 2-piece Heart of Depths, 2-piece Tenacity of the Millilith set combo just to be prepared in case HP is how she does it. I feel like if this set works on her, it'll be a well-rounded, albeit pretty boring combo because I don't really like 2-piece sets, but it's there if I need it. In regards to 2-piece sets though, there's also the possibility of a 2-piece Noblesse, 2-piece Heart of Depth combo for maximum burst damage. Or honestly, any combination of Emblem, Heart of Depths, and Noblesse, as at the very least, Yelan can make some use of all of these 2-piece combos. Finally, I figured 4-piece Noblesse Oblige could also be a very safe bet on Yelan, as it'll give her some extra burst damage as well as allow her to buff her own team's damage further than she already can with her own kit. So it probably won't be too shabby on her, but I'm gonna keep it low priority, mostly because I don't want to farm Noblesse pieces. Most of my opinions on these artifacts for Yelan Yelan stemmed from my preference in playing her as a sub DPS, much like Xingqiu, and it's entirely possible that she'll be a main DPS. I mean, this happened with Ganyu, but I'm not betting on it personally. As for what weapons I'm preparing for Yelan, I'm probably just gonna gamble for Aqua Simulacra to be honest, but in the event that I don't get it, my first priority is gonna be the energy recharge bows so that I can feed my 4-piece emblem passive. Meaning my first two priorities will be a battle between the Favonius Warbow and the Sacrificial Bow. But seeing as the Warbow grants much more energy recharge and the ability to proc energy particles every 6 seconds at R5 as opposed to the Sac Bow's 16-second passive cooldown, I feel like the Favonius Bow is gonna round out my Yelan a little more sufficiently, but it could still go both ways depending on how she ends up playing. By that logic though, Elegy for the End could in theory be Yelan's best non-signature weapon, assuming she works with 4-piece emblem of course, because its passive will be very easy to proc with her burst and she'll get 55% energy recharge from the weapon's bonus stat. If it turns out Yelan doesn't need to run the 4-piece emblem though, I'll instead throw either Thundering Pulse, Skyward Harp, or Viridescent Hunt on her, for the purposes of evening out my crit ratio instead of an energy recharge focus. Once I have my build put together, we gotta look at team comps, the most exciting part of this whole ordeal. I can already see Yelan becoming a premium replacement for Xingqiu in the national team, as she's still able to function similarly to how he functions in the team, with the added benefit that she boosts the damage her team deals simply by having her burst active. So on top of her Hydro application, she's also supplying Xiangling with a straight up damage bonus, which when paired with Raiden and Bennett would turn this free-to-play Copium team into literally probably the strongest team in the game. It's also pretty apparent that if Yelan's Hydro application holds up well enough, she'll play pretty amazingly with Hu Tao and any other Pyro carry, for similar reasons as the national team. She'll not only provide vape reactions for the Pyro carry, but also straight up damage buffs and off-field DPS. Then there's other fun teams like Taser comps and Mono Hydro teams, all of which Yelan could, in theory, fit comfortably in as a sub DPS, Hydro applicator, and damage buffer. Overall, Yelan seems like she'll be a versatile pick that can bring a lot of value to a lot of different teams. Much like Xingqiu, she's got the benefit of being a Hydro character, given that Hydro provides a handful of the strongest reactions in the game, and her kit doesn't seem to be as niched down as some of the other recent character releases these past few months, allowing her to fit into a lot of teams with a lot of potential builds. That's about it from me though. If I say any more, I'm gonna go into debt for her. If you liked this video, I implore you to like and subscribe, because doing so is proven to help you pull Yelan. That was not, in fact, a lie. You can also join my Discord server though, because I would love to see you around, and there's some cool people in there, so I'm gonna go for real, because I gotta stay focused. I cannot go into debt for this character. I cannot.